This is the weirdest thing that ever happened to me in my life, and I still cannot believe it happened to me, but it did happen. You should click the bell icon before you get into the scene and subscribe to the channel to get more goosebump giving stories about evil wives in the future. I will call my ex-wife Rumi, who's 29 years old, and I'll call myself Mike, who's 32 years old. It was the moment of Christmas when we met for the first time. In the course of a party, she became attracted to me and I offered her to buy her a drink on my behalf. After all, this is where our story began. She was a heavy drinker. The fact that she drank like a crazy person was a complete surprise to me. After we danced at night, she began drinking after we finished dancing. She overdrank and unfortunately she wasn't able to return home on her own as a result, as she was not able to drive. Having no idea where she lived, I had to travel with her in the middle of the night to finally get her to my house, get her to my room and get her to my bed. The rest of that night I did not even come into my room after that, in another room. When she woke up in the morning, she was surprised to see me still sleeping while she was awake. In the morning, she came and woke me from my sleep. I was thanked by her in the frank way. She asked me why I was not taken advantage of by her. This made me laugh out loud and I replied that I did not like these things at all. It was just last night that we met. That was the day, however, when we met and started dating after that. Our marriage took place in 2 years from when we started dating. It was a pleasure to have her as a partner. It would be fair to say that she was very good in bed. With her by my side, I enjoyed every minute of my life. In a way, it was like she was like a sex slave and she was also wild. There are several different ways in which she often shares her fantasies about having sex with me. In addition, we tried a lot of different ways according to her wish as well. As far as she was concerned, I was able to satisfy her and she was pleased with me as well. There was a time she expressed a fantasy which was a bit strange to me. In her statement, she said that she had a fantasy that she could have intercourse with 2 men at the same time. When I got angry with her, I asked if she was crazy, so she started laughing and said, "I am kidding you, S." I somehow felt that I knew what her nature was in some way. I did not have any concerns about her past. I don't know if she had done this before meeting me, however, I found that to be really strange. That was a moment when I forgot about her, thinking that maybe she was just kidding me. During our time together, I was able to fulfill all of her fantasies and I gave her plenty of good experiences in bed. Despite this, our marriage was fine for half a year. During the time period, I was cheated on by that slut hundreds of times over the course of this period. I was not a regular drinker of alcohol. As soon as we got married, Rumi made me a drinker because she had the bad habit of overdrinking. As a result of her overdrinking habit, she insisted that I also drink with her. It was then that I started drinking whenever she told me to. My love for her had been so intense that I was willing to accept whatever she said for her happiness. At first, she insisted that I drink once or twice a week, but after a few months, she started insisting that I drink every night. In the event of a drunken state I've been in, I once drank heavily and then I had to go to the washroom for a pee, and on my way to the washroom, it was becoming painful for me to control the drinks, so I somehow woke up and walked to the washroom. In my unconsciousness, I wasn't aware of what I had seen, but I am recalling what I saw in the middle of the night when I saw 2 of my neighbors in my home in my area of the lounge. There was no sign of Rumi anywhere on the site. I was not able to get up at that time, so I fell asleep as a result. I woke up the next morning and I remembered what I saw, but I thought it was just a dream since I couldn't recall the details. Initially, I wasn't sure that my neighbors would come to my home at night, but now I know why they do. I also shared this with Rumi and she said that it was just a dream you had last night because you had drank a lot of alcohol. I became a heavy drinker as a result of Rumi, initially because of her. My belief in her was so strong that I forgot about the event, so I believed her. Leaving the bedroom, I went outside and started to get ready for the day ahead. As I was just about to leave the house, it was then that I saw that neighbor whom I had seen in my dream, and I jokingly said to him that I had seen you in my house in my dream last night. As well as that, he started laughing and said he was guessing that you had consumed joke last night. Since he and I had been friends for more than 10 years, we have a special bond from that period of time. So after talking to him for a minute, I went to my job. The two of us talked for a minute and then I went back to work. I had another incident that occurred one day when I was very fed up and was having a bad day. I came home and she again asked me to have a drink. I initially refused, but she insisted me in startling manner that I have a drink with her. In response, I ignored her and told her that I did not want to drink at the moment. As she started crying, I refused her because I had been very rude to her that night. It was then that I began to love her because I loved her so much and was unable to see her sad face because I loved her so much. Due to her sadness, I forgot everything and just hugged her and tried to convince her for that night. In fact, she had some great magic that she could always use to help me release all the stress and depression that I was experiencing. I found her to be very helpful, but it was my mistake to always rely on her for anything and to always drink with her. I noticed something strange in the drink once. I noticed that there was a small piece of what looked like a tablet or something in it, so I checked the drink while Rumi was in the kitchen to get some snacks. As soon as I removed it from the drink, I drank it. I was not in a deep sleep like I used to be that night, though upon waking to the next morning, the question arises, why did I drink the same drink and drank a full bottle, but I was not sleepy that morning and I did not even have a headache? That makes me confused as well. I then begin to wonder if there was something wrong with what I was seeing. In order to see what was going on, I decided not to drink the next time. Nevertheless, Rumi bought the bottles another night so I could drink them, but I had to waste them in any case and I should not have known about it. Somehow I managed to get the drinks and went to the study room. I told Rumi that I would drink while I was working in the study room. Then I wasted all this from the window and threw it away. Afterwards, I acted like I had drank and after a half hour, I went to bed to sleep. The first thing I noticed was that Rumi was constantly staring at me. She seemed to be waiting for me to drift off to sleep. As soon as I got into bed, I acted like I was sleeping. After 2 hours, she came into the room and checked on me to see if I was sleeping or not. As she called my name, I did not answer and she opened her cupboard, took something and left the room without saying anything. I felt like she was on her phone talking and laughing and talking about some fun things on the phone. It was surprising at this time to hear the voice of a man after 1 hour. In order to understand what was going on, I just waited for a while. With slight steps, I walked out of the room after a period of about 10 minutes. As I listened to the voices, I wondered where they coming from. I could hear those voices coming from the other room. As soon as I opened the door, I found a scene that sank my heart to the bottom. In the bed, I found Rumi and 2 of my neighbors. While my wife was trying to explain to me what happened and when it happened, she started babbling desperately. I did not hear a word of it. I walked out of the room as quickly as I could. I went into my bedroom and locked the door with a sense of shame in my heart. There was a sound of men leaving upstairs that I could hear. As soon as they left, Rumi started knocking on my door and started crying and begging me to forgive her. It was the whole night that I cried and drank, yet it was not working. It was not working to decrease my pain. I did not open the door the whole night. It was killing me to see the flashbacks of her threesome. That night I was unable to sleep at all. I decided to punish her because I was in the fire at that time. As soon as I opened the door in the morning, I saw her sitting on the floor. It is likely that she sat on the floor for the entire night, but I did not give a damn. As soon as I opened the door in the morning, I saw her sitting on the floor. It is likely that she sat on the floor for the entire night, but I don't give a damn. At the end of the day, I got back home. There was no doubt that she looked like a mess. As I said to her, "Come and sit down with me," her divorce papers had already been prepared by me. However, before that, I wanted to punish her in some way. Then I told her that if you did what I told you to do, I would forgive you. Could you please let me know if you are agreeable to my proposal? She replied, yes, I would do whatever you ask me of. First of all, I said, let's make dinner for myself with a bottle of wine and candlelight. It's going to take me a while to get fresh, but then I'll be able to eat dinner. It took her 30 minutes to prepare everything. Once I started eating, I said, you made a shit meal, and threw it in front of her because that was the worst thing I have ever eaten. It was in anger that I threw some food on her. All of it was revenge on my part. It was very rude of me to treat her in such a way. As soon as she came to bed with me, she began hugging and kissing me on the cheek, but I went into another room to get some rest. It was the next day when I brought a hooker in front of Rumi. Then I told her to see what I am going to do about it. In the absence of my objections, she sat there and I fucked the slut in front of her while she was sitting there. As she was getting mentally torn from me, I asked her if she had enjoyed the experience. She asked me, "What's the point of doing this?" I replied, "I don't know." In response, I asked, "Am I supposed to answer a question like that to you?" I reminded her that you had forgotten that I caught you in bed with them in the middle of the night. She started fighting with me. I slapped her and smashed the divorce papers on her face in anger. I have given her 30 minutes to take her belongings out of my house and get the fuck out. As soon as she left, she disappeared. I decided to change my house because I don't want to be surrounded by that neighbors. As far as I can remember, that incident is still fresh in my mind. As much as I tried, I could not forget it. But I tried to do so. It is possible to compromise a lie, but what I saw about my own wife in the past could never be forgotten for the rest of my life. I'll be burned by it.